Good morning, everyone. This is LadyDragon speaking. It is Sunday, January 26th. It's 10:38 a.m. For those who are not on my Rumble, I advise you to go on my Rumble because this is where I'm gonna do the Donald news. I did that yesterday all day, and today we'll continue with our keynotes from CES. We're almost finished. So then after that, I'll show you the products that were showed at CES. There's a lot. 4,500 companies that are there. Bon, on continue aujourd'hui nos keynotes de CES. Aujourd'hui, ça va être Uber and Horizon Media. On commence avec ça. We're going to start with Uber and Horizon Media. Assurez-vous que vous soyez sur mon Rumble. Hier, j'ai fait toutes sortes de choses de Donald. Fait que les nouvelles vont tout le temps être sur Rumble à cette heure. OK? Fait qu'assurez-vous que vous soyez sur mon Rumble. Regardez dans la description. Bon, on va commencer tout de suite, là. Tout est correct, là. Well, here we go. Enjoy.
You're far away.
Oh my gosh.
We're right next to each other.
All right. So, welcome everyone. I'm Lisa Schneider, CEO of Integral Ad Science, or IAS, and it is an absolute pleasure to be here with two transformational leaders in the industry. And we're going to rename this session to It's Day One. So Christy Argelon recently joined Uber to run global advertising at Uber. And I want to get this right. It's 5 days.
5 days.
This is her 5th day on the job. And then Bob Lord, who was announced this week as a newly formed role as president of Horizon Media Holdings. And it's day 3.
Day 4.
Day 4 for Bob. So let's give a warm welcome to both Christy and Bob today. So I'm really looking forward to today's discussion. Here we are back at CES. We've come here how many times? Many years of CES. And I couldn't think of better panelists to bring up on the stage today to talk about disruption, AI, data, and then I'd say, most importantly, identifying opportunities in the industry on behalf of our clients, our customers, whether they be the brands or the holdcos. So with that, if each of you could quickly introduce yourself and what your new roles are, both at Uber and Horizon. Let's start there, and then we'll get into 2025 priorities, and then we could talk a bit about predictions, okay?
That sounds good. All right, I'll go first. So, Christy Argelon, and I just started as the head of global advertising at Uber. This is my 3rd retail media, commerce media-like business that I've been engaged in. I worked at Target and launched Roundel. I worked at Albertsons and launched Albertsons Media Collective. But if there is a theme, and it's, you know, Bob and I have, our careers have crisscrossed over the years, right? If there's a theme, it's I love to dive into those areas where there are gaps in terms of what our options are in the industry, and I happen to find the data that a lot of businesses are sitting on top of in terms of first-party data, insights on how we're all moving about the world, and finding ways to bring those to create compelling advertising that drives business results is kind of the motivation for how what keeps me in this space.
Right, and to spend the common consistent thread for you in leveraging the data and retail data.
Exactly.
To provide value. Great. Bob, how about you in your new role?
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Bob Lord. I am the newly minted president of Horizon Media Holdings. Prior to that, I spent nearly a decade at IBM and kind of left the marketing media industry for a bit. But before that, I was a president of AOL, and I was the global CEO of Razorfish for many, many, many years. I think what's so interesting, and actually Christy and I were talking about it in the back, this opportunity we all have right now with this new sort of access of our ability to democratize access to data and insights and the tools and technologies that we have, we only dreamed about having that, 15, 20 years ago. And with the fast moving changes of what's happening with consumer buying behaviors, the marketer needs a lot more nimble tools to actually really meet those demands of how consumers are actually changing their buying behaviors. So my role at Horizon is to really build a platform and a technology engine that allows us to provide our clients with tools that can meet up with those changing consumer buying patterns. Mm-hmm. And the great news about Horizon is the technology that's been invested so far has sort of, we're able to use the modern tools on it in a really seamless and easy way. So I'm very excited about sort of the transformation journey we're on. Mm-hmm. And I do think, as Lisa, you know, I mean, it's all about a platform, and it's all about enabling things and leading with a platform and then bringing services behind it. So that's the opportunity we have at Horizon right now.
Okay, great. So let's take a couple of minutes on a look back, just 2024. What were some of the critical trends that we saw in the industry? And now here we are in 2025. Do you see a shift in those trends? I know a year ago at CES, you probably both remember, topic du jour, it was AI, AI, AI. And now what we're seeing is AI is in use cases, and everyone's providing tangible examples. So I'd love to hear from both of you in terms of 2024 shift into 2025 and how the landscape that you see in 2025, how that is feeding into your priorities for each of your companies. Mm-hmm.
Obviously, where I see all the momentum is what's going on with retail media and also CTV. Mm-hmm. It was interesting to watch the progression at industry events like CES in Cannes. And for a long time, what I was working on was a little bit off to the side. And then 2 years ago, all of a sudden, that's all anybody, at least on the advertising side, wanted to talk about. And in 24, we're all talking about the meteoric rise of spend in retail media and commerce media, where you kind of use the words interchangeably. So we've talked about standards in terms of how retail media actually behaves, performs, does measurement. It really has, key requirements so that we're competitive, but also can earn the investment that the industry was saying that they wanted to give to us. So that was a key theme of 24. The IAB got very much involved in creating standards for retail media globally, which was a real nice push for us. Now in 25, it's going to be and are we delivering to those standards? So are we standing up for the rigor, the commercial acumen that's required, the measurement, the proof of performance, the data management, the trust, the transparency? Are we showing up the way that we need to earn a couple $100 billion of advertising spend, which is what people are predicting for us over time. And so I think that's the pivot's going to be from hot new thing to invest in a big way, because we're showing that we're driving sales. Now it's can I trust that you're delivering what you say that you are, so that I can go, if you're a media buyer, can I go back to my leadership team and say that this was a good investment and here's how I can prove it?
Got it. And the focus on standards, it's interesting feedback. In 2024, was that based on feedback from the brands? Because the standards equal scale?
Yeah, very much so. And so think about a lot of the commerce and retail media is born out of companies that are not media companies. And so what we're hearing from CPGs in particular, who invest an enormous amount of money in retail media, was I can't hire enough people to redo your work so I can do it in a way that's comparable from one retailer to the other. So you all need to start to take on that responsibility as part of your business rigor, which is absolutely true. And so the pressure was we aren't going to continue to invest in humans to figure out how to regulate you and to make you comparable to each other. And so that's where the standards came from.
Got it. It's sort of setting up for retail media scale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
How about you, Bob?
Okay, so I'm going to take a very different tact on this. I believe that in 2024, the marketing and media landscape actually woke up and realized that there are tools and technologies that are out there that are different than we all have sort of subscribed to in the last decade. And I only go back to, at least I ran the supply chain practice at IBM, and within the supply chain practice, you basically used pattern recognition, anomaly detection, large language models that we're all now talking about, and they've used that for decades, right? The only thing that's happened here, which is actually moving the industry further, is when ChatGPT came out, consumer buying behavior started to change. Consumers started to have access to things that they normally couldn't be able, decision-making that they could make without ads being inserted inside. So the marketing media landscape in 24, in my mind, the conversations AI, what does it mean? What does it mean? My job's going to go away? No, it doesn't mean your job's going away. It's about how do you find how to use these tools most effectively to get to the consumer. So 24, I believe, was a discovery year of this industry waking up. I think 25 is about people getting very serious about implementing these tools at scale so that you, as a marketer or a media buyer, can augment your intelligence to keep up with the consumer that is actually
100%.
ahead of you right now. And I think 25 is that big challenge for us.
And you know, Bob, I love that because if you think of even how we've been using AI in machines over the last couple of years, it was just to be more productive, right? So how do we get more productivity out of the workforce?
That's right.
Now we're to the point where we can start to mass produce insights.
Yes.
And then out of those insights, start to take a completely different set of actions and activities.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was talking with a client who's sort of in the ISP space, and it was interesting because they kept saying to us, "Well, how do you find new audiences for me? How are you going to go find new audiences for me?" Well, so you talk about pattern recognition. You say, "Look, we can spot a new audience for you in this DMA." But more importantly, what we can do for you with pattern recognition is I could go back 6 months. And I can find out who your defectors have been. And I can create lookalikes on those defectors. So I can actually project 6 months forward to say, what do those lookalikes look like?
Right.
Because now at least I'm putting creative against those defectors that are most likely to defect from you. And I have a different campaign there than I actually do for a campaign where I'm going after a new audience. And that kind of thinking hasn't really occurred in this industry.
But such an opportunity.
It's a great opportunity.
So can we, I want to go one click deeper. I kind of want to throw the card back. So I want to go one click deeper in something you just said, Bob, that you see right now in the landscape, consumers are ahead of the marketers in terms of how consumers are leveraging ChatGPT, especially when it comes to e-commerce. Can you provide 2 specific examples? And then from there, Christy, I really am going to throw the cards out. Sorry, we're going to go off script.
Sorry.
I'd love to hear from an Uber perspective, and I know you're day 5, how Uber is leveraging AI to enhance the consumer experience.
Sure, so let me just step, I'll take any engine you talk about. So ChatGPT, Perplexity, any of our favorites, Claude, whoever it may be. So if I go on Perplexity and I ask it a very simple question, what kind of SUV should I be driving within Michigan? It's going to come back to me with an answer. Not only is it going to give me an answer for the best SUV that I should be driving within Michigan, it's going to tell me where I got that answer from. There's a little egg that you can go and you can find out the source of that data. No advertiser has been involved with that.
Yeah, but Bob.
Yes.
Are you the average consumer? I mean, do you think this is mainstream?
With ChatGPT is.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really, look,
Show of hands. Show of hands. We're going to wake everyone up. How many of you in the audience have used ChatGPT to ask a specific we won't talk about cars. Product information, show of hands.
come on, 70%.
70%? You use ChatGPT to
That was a quick
calculate how many
calculation.
hands were raised.
Lisa, think this logic. You're a student in school. You get familiar using ChatGPT because you want to write content. It's not a far leap from them to actually go from that to actually forget about Google or Bing search and go directly into getting an answer.
Yeah.
But the most important thing, not only do I know where that answer has come from, then I'm prompted with 3 additional questions that maybe I should ask makes me smarter. So that whole process about how I think about buying or how I think about solving a problem is encapsulated in that experience. The marketer is not there yet.
Yeah, I agree.
And my point is, we have to, as marketers and media providers, figure out how to get there. Now, Christy is in the car with me, right? She's there when I'm driving my Uber. So she's got the perfect opportunity to start to bring advertising to me and thought capital to me that I didn't have before, because she's got me captivated. So she's in a great position.
Yep. And he doesn't even have to chat with me. I just know where he's going.
Ooh.
Too, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably
that's right.
knows like how many Ubers you've taken this week on the strip.
Oh my God.
A lot.
A lot.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yes, and thank
But
you
it's much more
everyone else
efficient than
that's
having a
doing
car,
that.
don't you think?
It's much more
Yeah.
efficient than having a car. How about Chrissy from Uber's perspective?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily a ChatGPT way, but it's a great example. If you just consider how AI allows us to make the experience so much richer. And we have journey advertising, whether it be the ads that are served to you in the app while you're on your phone, or as we install more and more screens in cars and we have Journey TV. It's not TMZ screaming at you while you're sitting in the back of the car. It's we know where you're going, we know what your behaviors have been. We're serving you, instantaneously richer content than we have in the past. That really reflects the moment that you're in. And to be able to do that at scale, repeatable, globally, is really the places where technology is changing the game. And as a result, we're taking a brilliant utility that it's, the Uber utility, the app, and making it a rich experience that then starts to create that strong emotional connection that you have now with Uber. Because of how relevant it is, without going into this over-targeting place, which is, I think we've been there as an industry, right? We've we tried to get too cute, and then it just didn't work because you missed something. And now we're to that place where we're just showing relevance based on where you're knowing where you're going and delivering content that relates to it, but and enriches the experience.
And Lisa, I do think in your business around brand safety, that's going to be a bigger issue, right? Because marketers are going to be places that are not traditional, but sort of the technology that you're building is going to allow marketers to sort of append what they're doing to ensure that the placement that they put out, wherever it may be long term, is going to resonate, right? So you're thinking about it. I would suggest to you most non-platform companies aren't thinking about this stuff yet.
In terms of environments, brand safe, suitable environments, nuanced for brand by brand, global language,
I may not want to show up on Perplexity. I may want to show up on another, or I want to be on Uber. I don't necessarily want to be somewhere else. Your technology is going to allow marketers to figure out where those reach are and where those brand safety environments are being, right? So, but we're just at the beginning of thinking about that. That's why I say the consumer behavior is pulling us along, and soon we're going to have to get ahead of it.
What about, this is such a good dialogue. So I remember sitting on this stage a year ago, and AI, and great discussion. And many of the panelists, which are still CMOs, were talking about the opportunity in driving efficiencies with content creation, in leveraging AI, media buying and planning. So I'd love to hear your perspective on that, and then we can shift gears and talk about another favorite topic, data.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go first because we're doing it especially on managed service at the other retail media businesses that I worked on, there's so much volume that you have to put through the system.
Yeah.
And there is no doubt that AI takes a lot of the manual labor out of it. You're operating more efficiently. You maybe don't have to add another 70 headcount. You only need to add a 25. Like, all of that is valuable, especially when you consider the point of these businesses are the margins that they deliver to their parent company so that the parent company can invest in all the other areas they need to stay relevant to consumers. But it's just not as interesting until AI allows you to optimize a campaign a few more times.
Right.
Because humans can't do
Right.
it that, right?
This is
Humans have to sleep.
performance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
humans have to sleep. So if you can optimize a few more times, you're gonna get a greater outcome. If you can put more creative versions out into the world and optimize those,
Yeah.
you're gonna get a greater outcome. So we've got to make the pivot from we're now working more efficiently to now we're delivering far more effectiveness. And I think that that's going to be key in 25, but probably more so in 26.
Right, right. It's that linkage of leveraging AI as a tool to drive greater efficiency at scale and drive higher performance.
Yep.
And the key is it's a tool.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's meant, I think people are starting to understand that this technology is about augmenting our intelligence, not replacing it.
Not replacing it, yeah.
So I think the things that you guys are talking about is much more about the productivity layer of getting rid of the Excel spreadsheet monkeys and all that kind of stuff that we do, and pasting and cutting in PowerPoint. All that stuff should be gone, right? I don't know if you've experimented at all with Microsoft Copilot, but just getting there, it's going to get better for us. That's the base layer, and that's, I think, going to at least take 2 years for adoption for us to get to.
Right.
The next layer up is how do you actually then start thinking about the business in a different way, and how do you really look at data and insights in a different way?
Mm-hmm.
How do you glean, how do I outmaneuver my competition by looking at the insights, right? Most of the time we're so just getting across the line to get an insight that we haven't even thought about the implications of what that insight is. Mm-hmm. So that means that we're going to augment our thinking in the media buying planning process versus just executing on it. And I think we can have better conversations around it. You know, it was interesting, what do you do with tentpole events? What does that mean now? How do you actually do surround? What information do you get out of that? LLM, large language models, can actually take really large sets of big data and correlate the two for you almost in real time. And we haven't had that capability to do before. Now, people will argue with me that the compute power is too expensive, therefore we're not going to be able to get there. But there is lots of forces here to bring down that compute power. So inevitably it's going to be there for us to actually figure out how we ultimately have a better value exchange between Uber and their customer. Because that's ultimately where we need to get to.
And the one thing that I think about a lot too, and maybe it goes back to the Chat GPT starting point, we're going to go too far with it, and we're going to let the machines do all the thinking.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be like, wait a minute, like that. And small example, I'm driving to Tahoe with my kids. You throw out a, hey, I wonder. And it's like, do I go to Chat GPT and immediately get the answer and squash the conversation? Or do I use it to kind of accentuate the debate and the conversation instead of answering it for us? We don't have anything to talk about. How do we use it to fuel the conversation and really get to our own conclusion?
Right, and acknowledging it's a journey, not single source of truth.
Right.
Completely we had a client dinner last night, and the client was sharing first time taking his family to Japan, 3 kids. It's ambitious, over the holiday, and he used ChatGPT. He said, it's the first time I've used it in a family trip.
And he had a good experience.
And he had a good experience, but he was very aware of the fact not all of the recommendations were quite accurate, but they used a lot of the recommendations.
Yep. How do you get it to do the 70% of the work and then humans do the rest?
That's right.
Look, I mean, human beings inherently were lazy. You have to sort of, fight that to say this tool and technology is going to help me. It's not going to actually give me the answers all the time.
You could, but should you?
Wasn't there a famous, when ChatGPT first came out, wasn't there some story about some lawyer who did a brief and it came back with the wrong answers and it made up case law, and he brought it into court. And
Wow.
yeah,
Oh,
so
geez.
you know, you gotta be careful.
Don't hire
You
that
do.
lawyer.
Yeah, that's
Don't
right.
hire. Okay, so now let's shift gears and talk about data. And I know, Christy, especially in your incredible background for years in retail media, you've focused on how to leverage data to drive value. And so I'd love to hear, for both of you, your thoughts on data. We talked about a little bit with AI and insights, but I do think in this new world of leveraging AI as a tool, even the types of data sets that we leverage, the insights that we leverage, even how we approach analysis will change. So I'd love to hear from both of you, and we'll start with Christy from an Uber perspective. As you're building Uber advertising, which is just rocket ship growth, can't wait for you to really dig in. I'd love to hear your strategy around leveraging data.
Yeah, and this is a space that I don't think retail media has figured out how to leverage. But if you think of really what's the fundamental of retail media, it is this first-party database that it sits on top of that is very unique in the marketplace. And I think that we, as an industry, have figured out how to put ads on top of that. And that's one way to bring that data to market, but what are the multiple ways to bring that to market? We see from the most sophisticated clients, they want clean rooms where they can take the data that we have with a couple of their other key partners and then a media partner and then some other data provider and bring it all together and make it more actionable, which I think is pretty interesting. And all of it done, with clean rooms, that means all of the privacy requirements have been taken care of. And so I think that we are just beginning to understand the applications of the data that big companies have access to, the first-party data, and how to apply it to marketing and to change the marketing data ecosystem as a result of it. And so that's why you see travel media networks and financial media networks. Like, we all know that we're sitting on top of something that's incredibly valuable to the marketing landscape. And it's better than what's been in the marketing landscape to date, especially if you think of how much of our data was based on cookies. And so how do we play the role that we can and should play with this really valuable asset? And then how do the companies actually generate revenue off of that so that they can do all of the other things they need to do to keep up with consumer demand?
Right, and one more click into that. How does Uber think about enhancing the consumer experience by leveraging the data?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting thought, because if you look at where we are right now, we run these really great campaigns kind of surface by surface. But we have an opportunity to really start to pivot it and think about all of the different experiences that we participate in, call them moments or missions or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you use Uber for something very specific. And it's not across all shopping, it's not across all, movement going to events, but it is going to be across, I'm going to the airport, I'm going to the office, I'm going to a concert, or I've got ants in my kitchen, I need Raid now.
Oh.
I don't need it tomorrow when Amazon can get it to me, I need it now. Right, exactly. And so how do we use our data in terms of the occasions that we see to turn them into experiences, not just an ad that might hit that moment properly? So it's a pivot from ads running on surfaces to building experiences that are wildly relevant to how people use Uber.
Right, and very localized.
Very localized, yeah.
Which is another differentiator.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Bob,
We're selling for you.
I know, I like
Getting
this.
a lot of ad sales out of this conference. I'm gonna try to take the conversation a little bit of a different way, because I'm starting to think about data in a very thoughtful, prescriptive, where we were go back to COVID and think about our contact tracing. Think about prior to the vaccine.
Yeah.
How did we trace people? We used a neural network to actually organize data sets. And we here at the marketing media world have tried to use taxonomy and columns and logic to organize data. So I believe with the advent and the ability of using large language models, that we will start to create neural network data relationships like we did contact tracing in COVID. We were forced to do it in COVID.
As long as consumers are okay with that.
Yeah, as long as they let you, yeah.
But you can, yes.
The
Yes.
needs of COVID are very different from I need RAID right now to kill the ants in my kitchen.
Yes.
So how are you thinking about that in terms of
So
convincing the consumer, demonstrating to the consumer that the neural network and leveraging that is additive to the consumer experience?
yeah, let me walk back. When you think about a neural network and you think about creating groups of cohorts, when we try to create cohort groups, we already bias ourselves by putting in a taxonomy before. When I'm saying upstream, before I even get to the point of activation, I'm talking about how data creates cohort groups for me.
Okay.
So that at the end of the day, when Chrissy has to make a target to actually put somebody, give them a RAID ad, the cohort group, the formation of the cohort group is much more unbiased than us putting in
Fair. That's
a
fair.
false taxonomy. So when I think about data and I think about the opportunity of data, I believe that brands who think about neural network cohort groups are going to be much more effective on the conversion side eventually, because you know that those groups are much more lookalikes and they will behave the same, similar to how we
And
did
it's
contact
unbiased.
doesn't
It's
have the
less
bias
bias.
of
Right,
Bob
less
Lord
bias.
saying, well, this is the taxonomy I want to use,
Yeah,
and I'm going to
that's
go
fair.
off the
Right.
spine of XYZ
Yeah,
data
that's
set.
very fair.
So I think it's a fantastic, and I think companies and brands that think about that differently will actually be able to advertise and have a better consumer experience than someone who doesn't start doing that.
But think of the gap in the market right now for
It's
any
enormous.
company to be able to deliver that for a brand.
No,
Yeah.
100%. But you were asking about sort of data and how I think about data.
Yeah.
I think that's the future of what we do with our data. And quite honestly, we have a long way to go just to get our taxonomy right. I mean,
Right.
there are great companies out there right now who are dynamically rendering a taxonomy engine in real time. Like that's a big step up from where we were before,
Yeah.
right? So there's an incremental step there, but ultimately you have to start thinking about how these cohort groups really should be created to begin with.
Now you know why I always make sure my path crosses with Bob, so I can hear what he's thinking about, right?
Nice. You're so nice. You're so nice.
We could have a panel again a year from now, and
Yeah.
I'll say, Bob, how are the neural
Yeah.
networks? How's that going?
We'll figure it out. No, I'm not, and they may not show up next year, but
Yeah.
I do think it is a different way of us getting out of our own comfort zone.
Yeah.
I've got,
Yeah.
the data, the data business, it's never done. You're always sort of refining data. You sort of always want to have it out. I mean, part of the data we get is always junky. You throw away 25% of it. It's a waste.
Yeah.
But, large language models can help fill in those gaps. So maybe you don't throw away 25%, you're only throwing away 10% of it. It's going to have a better ROAS for the consumer and the media buyer.
I'll bet though by next year there'll be a lightweight conceptual version of what you're talking about,
Yeah, I think
right?
so.
That starts to
Let's do
take
that.
us on that
Wanna
journey.
do that together?
Sure.
We can do it. Lisa?
Yes.
We can all do that, right?
Yes, we could do that together. And then with performance, let's talk a bit about performance. And it's something, being at CES, having the opportunity to meet with our partners and platforms and brands and agencies. The feedback at IAS we're consistently hearing at CES is, IAS, help us with ensuring our brands are running adjacent to media quality,
Yeah.
high quality media that's appropriate, provide the transparency, but also help us drive higher ROI and deliver that performance. And it's an announcement we launched yesterday of a new suite of products called Total Media Performance. But with that, I'd love to hear for both of you how you're thinking about, with all of your priorities in your companies for 2025, at the end of the day, it's about achieving results, right? And hitting the ROIs, hitting the KPIs. So how are you thinking about performance within your role, but also performance with the business that you're driving?
You want to go first this time?
Yeah, no, look, when you start talking about performance, I think it's all about what is the measurement. I think part of what I hope to do is to help to change the measurement, because we have gotten very in tune with sub-optimizing our current KPI, or I should say optimizing our KPIs, which is sub-performance. So we end up optimizing and optimizing and optimizing into sort of a place where it's not really effective anymore. And that all starts with what is really the measurement criteria. And I think what you've launched in your new measurement is the right kind of view that I think we all have to start taking. It's a quality measurement, not a volume measurement.
Right.
And I think you get a much more effective, as you've proven over and over, you get a much more benefit on a return on your spend. So I think part of it is really, as we come out and we understand data better, and we understand sort of how our media is being spent, how do we really change what the measurement criteria is, and how does it change how do we tie that to the ultimate sale? So the retail networks have that advantage because they have that closed system, but we have to go beyond the retail networks. We have to really come up with that answer. So I do think that that's the kind of work that has to get done in 25, so that as marketers, we become much more responsible for driving the bottom line of the business. And I still think it's a bit disconnected.
Yeah.
I think he's being kind. I think it's a mess, right? I mean, if you even think about how each individual company does measurement, some of it is, can I prove to my boss that I made a smart media investment and I got a good ROAS, right? And that's how organizations are structured, how their performance is judged. And so there's marketing though is such a huge investment for any company, large or small. And it feels to me that measurement will be really great when it's reporting up through the CFO.
Correct.
And truly showing the return that they got for that investment, whether it be brand metrics, and then we can prove the importance of brand metrics, or if it's incrementality and that I drove these new sales for the company. New to brand, grew the share, all of those things. We have to get it up to that level where we're really showing profound business outcomes.
I 100% agree. That's
That measurement is reported up to the CFO.
It's accountable up to the CFO to
and there's a direct
prove
link.
the investment was worth it.
On brand and performance.
On brand and performance.
I mean, Lisa, what does a qualified, a marketing qualified lead mean? It doesn't mean anything. Just marketing has set up a metric for themselves that they report to their boss on, that they got so many, marketing qualified leads. It means nothing.
Right.
You have to connect the dots.
You have
to
to
the
connect.
ROI.
I mean, we
To
get down to
outcome.
sales now, but still, it's like you got to get it all the way through to that sales transact. And I think that's what I think we have to look for, these hero metrics that drive everyone's behavior, because just a PDF download off your website is a marketing qualified lead. That means nothing to the company. And that marketing team has gotten a big bonus because they hit their metric, not the company metric, right?
Yeah, that was a 2% improvement over the metric they had the prior year, right?
Exactly.
And that was based on judgment.
We know those.
Yeah.
We know those.
Right,
stats,
right.
yeah.
I mean, I've been in the middle of all that. I'm responsible too.
Yeah, but that's to your point, that's what your boss is measuring you on. So you're going to push as much as you can to make those marketing qualified leads come through, which may not be which probably are not the right thing for the sales engine.
Right.
And the driving the bottom line of the company.
Right. And you do hear that and see that, and I'm sure you both do as well, from CMOs. Like, they are dying for that level of accountability. It's just, as an industry, we're not providing it to them yet.
Yes.
And so that's on all of us to figure out how to come together and do that better.
Yes.
And that the question is it really, are we brave enough to have as much transparency as we want to, which is, again, going back to your metric. You're offering a metric that is about quality. It's the quality of the interaction, and pay for the quality of that interaction. I, as a CMO, would rather do that than pay for a spray metric out there and sort of pay a company to do that for me.
Right. I mean, it creates a new level of transparency and accountability. I love this notion of measurement up to the CFO. So we're almost up for time. So let's do a lightning rod. I'd love to hear from both of you Like, what would be an incredible headline that we would read a year from now at CES with everything that we've discussed around AI, performance, ROI, could be for your company. That's a hard one, I know.
That is. Do you have one?
No, I don't have. You're better at this
You're
than
like,
I
you
am.
go first.
You're better at this than I am on the creative side.
Oh, geez. I think it would be somewhere around the idea of effectiveness again, right? So ad industry moves from working more efficiently with AI to driving 20%
That's
greater
right.
outcome across the board because they were focused more on effectiveness.
Right, and putting a metric against it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I would really. I love this idea that the CMO and the CFO are friends.
Yeah.
Like I really,
Yeah.
because I still think in companies, and the ad industry basically has helped them to get there.
Yeah.
Like I do think that is a moniker, and that's an objective that would really be fun to have a CFO up here talking about how much they love their CMO.
That's based on transparency.
On
That has to be
transparency.
part of the
Transparency,
headline.
metrics
Yeah.
for success, regular review
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
KPIs.
We finally know which 50% works.
That's right, at the
I know.
C-level.
That was Wanamaker, right? For those of you who don't remember, George
The
Wanamaker.
was
He was
it?
the guy. Yeah, he said he's famous in New York, and he basically said he didn't know if half of his marketing spend was good or bad. I can't remember.
Yeah, well, I think that could be the headline a year from
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
It's just greater transparency and visibility into
Yeah.
ROI and efficiency. All right, so with that, I want to thank both of you. I know we covered a lot of ground today, but I hope all of you in the audience enjoyed today's discussion, and let's give it up for Christy and Bob.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yes.
This is fun.
Well, that was very interesting. I like the fact that they said, well, now we know where you're going. We can do marketing there. C'est vrai, par exemple. J'ai aimé quand elle dit, oh, là, on sait où est-ce que tu t'en vas avec ton Uber. Fait qu'on peut te faire un advertisement pour ça. Like winning more. Très intéressant. Mais ça va être plus targeter les advertisements. Si c'était des bons advertisements, qu'est-ce que toi, tu as besoin, ça a d'allure, mais tu sais, là, des affaires de fou, là, que ça n'a aucun bon sens, là. Oh, anyway, I hope you enjoyed, because I did. I'll come back in about 5 minutes with another keynote. See you then. Je reviens dans 5 minutes avec une autre keynote.